Hello, welcome to the video. Welcome to the 5th installment of the Power of series of videos. While we covered Tyrannosaurus in the last episode, this time we'll be looking at the similarly named, but not at all related, Tyrannotitan, the hardly ever spoken about Giganotosaurus relative. You guys already know the drill if you've seen the previous videos. We'll be giving an X out of 10 rating for size, speed and bite force before wrapping up with an overall score out of 30. And for those wondering, notes are left in the description in case you want to know how I calculate the scores for these videos. Will Tyrannotitan get itself into the 30 plus tier or be like Tyrannosaurus and come just a little shy of getting in? Well, let's see how this goes. Starting with size, the Vividan in his latest Mega Theropod video placed Tyrannotitan at 7.3 metric tons in weight for the largest known specimen. However, according to him, histology shows this specimen wasn't fully mature and that he wouldn't be surprised if skeletally mature individuals were closer to 8 metric tons. Funnily enough, Gregory in 2024's edition of the Princeton Field Guide to Dinosaurs places Tyrannotitan at 9 metric tons. The dude famous for underestimating dinosaur mass and shrink-wrapping their skin in thin coats of flesh is responsible for the highest number I've ever seen attributed to Tyrannotitan. You gotta love paleontology. Ignoring Paul for a second, I recall a video from Tyrannosaurus, who said in a video he did on Tyrannotitan that some parts of the skeleton weren't pneumatic, particularly the vertebrae, so Tyrannotitan might have been a bit heavier than some similarly sized relatives in terms of its skeletal system. Overall, Tyrannotitan gets a size score of 7.3 out of 10. In terms of speed, to my knowledge there hasn't been any estimates for Tyrannotitan's movement speed, but we can make some guesstimates based on other Theropods. Theropods and other Dinosauriformes list a 7 metric ton Giganotosaurus as being capable of 33.3 kilometers an hour. Given Vividan lists Tyrannotitan at 7.3 metric tons, we could assume a similar speed. Mass doesn't necessarily mean it was slower, so we'll assume the same speed, which gives Tyrannotitan a speed score of 6.66 out of 10. This is so far the best speed score on this tier list, making Tyrannotitan a respectable speedster. In terms of bite force, I've previously stated that Giganotosaurus has been estimated to have anterior and posterior bite forces of 11,312 and 25,449 newtons respectively. This is a strong bite force, although some other theropod dinosaurs, mainly Tyrannosaurs, can rival this at smaller and surpass it at similar body masses. Regardless, assuming the same bite force for Tyrannotitan, we get a score of 18.4 out of 10. For overall score, Tyrannotitan comes out at 32.36 out of 30, a slightly higher score than that of Giganotosaurus, surprisingly. This means that Tyrannotitan qualifies and becomes the third dinosaur to be in the 30 plus tier of power, the highest tier on the tier list. For memory, Tyrannosaurus in his video on Tyrannotitan also notes that its arms were stronger than that of other Giganotosaurs, which is a positive for Tyrannotitan. The only issue I can think of really is that it probably had binocular vision like that of its relatives I've talked about previously, meaning in a fight with Tyrannosaurs like Tyrannosaurus, T-Rex probably would have superior visual senses. However, T-Rex is more of an outlier in terms of power, considering in the previous episode it basically created itself its own tier of power. Ignoring T-Rex, Tyrannotitan definitely has placed itself comfortably in the highest tier of the tier list. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video and will like, share and subscribe as a result, and I'll see you next time I upload.